Hello, thanks for joining us for the Fireside today. My name is Assistant Chief Matthew Duke from Merrimack Fire Rescue. With me is Captain and Fire Marshal John Manueli. Both of us have been with Merrimack Fire for approximately 20 years, and today we'd like to talk to you about something that's very important, and that's the vital importance of smoke detectors in everyone's home.
For the last over 25 years, the town of Merrimack has not had a fatal house fire at all. Unfortunately, that record was broken in the last year, not once but twice. We had a fatal house fire, two separate incidents in town that actually had very similar circumstances, and we want to discuss the circumstances, try and minimize this from happening again, or preventing it entirely from happening again. The first fatal fire we're going to talk about happened on Gale Road back in July of 2018. We're going to put up slide 1, thank you. In this incident, a resident who lives in the area of our Station 2 on Natticook Road noted a strong smell of smoke at about midnight, and initially thought it was just somebody having an outside campfire. And before he went to bed about half an hour later, he noted that the smell had gotten a lot stronger and decided to contact our crew over at Station 2. The crew got out into the engine, drove around the neighborhood. They could smell it, they couldn't see anything, they couldn't hear anything. They drove up and down streets until they finally saw fire coming from the front window of a house on Gale Road. The crew called in that they had a house fire. They broke into the house. They were able to do a search in the house. They found 2 victims who unfortunately had passed away before they had been found. They extinguished the fire. The damage to the home was actually relatively light as far as a house fire goes, in that the living room and kitchen were burned, but the remaining part of the house suffered heat and smoke damage throughout.
The second incident was eerily similar. If we can go to the next slide. Again, this fire occurred earlier in the morning as opposed to in the middle of the night. But a resident noticed an unusual kind of chemical or plastic odor around the outside of his house. He searched around the area, spoke to his neighbors. They smelled it too. They searched the neighbor's property, couldn't find anything. They contacted the fire department. Again, it was actually even in the same area of town. Engine 2 responded, began searching the area of Amherst Road, some of the side streets. Around 8:35 in the morning, they found a split entry style home on Riverside Drive with fire showing in a basement window. Again, crews forced entry into the home, extinguished the fire, searched the house for anybody that may be at home. And again, unfortunately, they found a victim, fortunately, but unfortunately, it was too late to do anything. The victim had succumbed to his injuries from the fire. And again, as in the fire that John discussed, there was very, very little damage to the house from the outside. It was difficult to tell that a fire had taken place. Most of the damage inside was from heat and smoke.
In both of these fires, the residents did not call 911. In both of the incidents, it appears the victims were asleep when the fire started. And in both of the incidents, one of the victims was found in the area of the kitchen heading towards the back door as though trying to open the door to ventilate the house or to escape. In both cases, the front doors were not accessible because of the fire, in one case being in the basement coming up the stairs and the other one being in the living room near the front door. All of the victims died from smoke inhalation, not from fire. And in both homes, about the same age, the same style of home, they were both split entries built in the early to mid 70s. And the most important thing out of this is neither of the 2 houses had a working smoke detector. While they did have detectors, none of them were working at the time of the fire. Both of them actually were, at least in one house, one of them was over 40 years old. It was probably installed when the house was built.
That's right, and one other thing that these fires had in common that we found was it's estimated that the fires had been burning for anywhere from 1 to 2 hours prior to them being discovered and the fire department being notified. So a working smoke detector would have made a huge difference, we feel, in both these cases. It would have warned the potential victims in time to safely escape. One of the things that's hard for non-firefighters or anybody who's never been inside a burning building to understand is what actually happens when there's a fire inside the home. When you see a house fire or a building fire on TV and the actors go inside the inside the burning building, it shows the firefighters or the character walking into a well-lit room with a little bit of smoke, and there's a brightly burning fire in the corner. That couldn't be further from the truth. Inside a house that's on fire, the house is completely filled down to the floor with hot, thick black smoke. There's very little visibility. Most of the time you can't see your hand right in front of your face. We have to navigate around the house mostly by feel, staying low below the heat, and feeling our way around the house, looking for landmarks. So, and we do that with a lot of specialized equipment and training. In order for a person to safely escape from a house fire, they need to have a very early warning to enable them to escape the house before the conditions get anywhere near to that point. And a working smoke detector is key to that early warning.
Chief, is there a difference between the smoke from a fire, say, 50, 60 years ago and the smoke today?
There is. In fact, if we go back, as John said, 50 or 60 years, all of our homes were filled with furniture that was made out of things like this wooden table. The upholstery material was natural fibers. It was cotton. It was wool. If you look around your house now, almost everything inside the house is basically petroleum based. So you have your foams, your plastics, your styrene, polystyrenes. All those things emit huge quantities of very thick, very black smoke. So it's quite different.
And poison gases. There's cyanide involved in that also.
Yep.
There's numerous chemicals that are being produced when the rayon and nylon and synthetics are burning, which rapidly cut down on how much time you have breathing the fumes.
Correct. If we want to go to slide 3, I think.
Yeah, if we go to slide 3, one of the things that we're going to show with slide 3 is basically the statistics. We know it's boring, but the statistics show that a working smoke detector can reduce the risk of dying in a house by nearly in half, actually slightly more than half. No smoke detectors at all were present in 40% of all fatal fires, and detectors were present but not working in another 23% of fires, resulting in death. This means that over 60% of the fire fatalities occurred in homes without a working smoke detector. One of the most common reasons that a detector is either not working or not present is due to nuisance alarms. I'm sure everyone out there has had a nuisance alarm. They occur when you have a smoke detector that's too close to the bathroom door and the steam sets it off, or you burn popcorn, or you're a smoker and it sets off the detector, so people will get upset. They'll take it off the ceiling, they'll take the battery out, and they'll forget to put it back. And that's the biggest issue, is by not putting it back and it have a fire at night, you're not protected. So please do not remove the smoke detectors, do not remove the batteries. If you have one in a bad location that's either close to the kitchen and you're a bad cook and you burn things a lot, move it a little further away down the hallway. If it's next to the bathroom where your kids take long, hot, steamy showers, move it away from the bathroom, put it in a better location, don't remove it, and don't take out the batteries.
Right, and in the event of a nuisance alarm, the best thing to do, correct me if I'm wrong, John, is to just attempt to clear the detector by fanning it, open up the windows and that sort of thing, and clear the detector, as opposed to actually physically removing it from the.
Correct.
And that way, once the smoke is clear, it goes back to working the way it's supposed to. So in the next slide, if we want to put up slide number 4, we have some photos from a bedroom fire at another location in town. Actually, excuse me, it was not a bedroom fire. There's some photos of a bedroom from a home that had a fire in the living room. And in the photos, there's you'll see the bed and some other bedroom furnishings. But what I want to draw your attention to is the condition of the walls, and all of that staining on the walls you see is from the smoke that accumulated from the fire in the next room and went into the bedroom. The occupant in this situation was woken by a functioning smoke detector in their home. Woke up, and as you can see, the marks on the wall, those are handprints. This is a person who was in their own home that they're familiar with and had to feel their way out of the home due to the smoke condition in the house. And you'll notice too, as you go from photo 1 to 2 to 3, the handprints on the wall get lower as you move through the photographs. The person, we feel, and speaking to him afterwards, stood up, realized there was a fire, and then in order to safely escape had to crouch down and crawl under the smoke layer. But again, what enabled this person to safely escape was a functioning smoke detector in their home.
So if we put up slide number 5, we're going to see a smoke detector lasts roughly 7 to 10 years before it loses its effectiveness and needs to be replaced with a new one. The houses started being built with smoke detectors sometime in the 60s or 70s. Many people think that they still have a smoke detector, it's still functional. It's not true. Over a period of time, they definitely lose their effectiveness, even if they're an electric installed one and not a battery installed one. Batteries obviously have to be changed. We recommend you change them twice a year. When you change your clocks, you change your batteries. And you also vacuum out the smoke detector every time you change the battery.
Right. They obviously need to have a good battery in them and be kept clean. Some of the newer detectors that are out there now have a 10-year permanent battery that you don't ever have to change. It's still important to test those regularly, make sure that they're working, but they don't have a battery that you can change, so it's actually even more important to test them and make sure they're working regularly, and those need to be kept clean as well by vacuuming out every few months. Also, if, as John said, early on, smoke detectors were typically placed maybe one on each level of the home, so there would be one upstairs, one in the basement, one on the first floor. We now recommend that smoke detectors be placed throughout the home, a smoke detector in each bedroom, as well as on each floor, any place where people sleep. So if each bedroom should have its own, so that if you're sleeping with the bedroom door closed and a fire should start inside the bedroom, you'll have early warning in that case as well.
One of the things we get asked a lot is why they change the codes, and typically the codes are changed when there's a tragedy. When it comes to the smoke detectors, the original intention was to have one smoke detector in the house, and that was thought to be enough. And unfortunately, they would put the smoke detector on the main floor, and then they started having fires in the basement. And what happened initially was there was a fire in a basement one time. The smoke detector on the main floor didn't go off until the fire had built up to such a point that it had actually burned through the floor as the people were trying to exit, and the people fell into the basement and died. So then they decided, okay, we need to have one on each floor. That was a great idea. That worked great until they started having larger houses, a colonial style house, the bedroom's up on the second floor, you have a fire in the basement, and you can't hear the smoke detector going off in the basement until, again, the fire breaks through the floor, people can't get out because the stairways are burning. So then they decided, we have to interconnect all of the smoke detectors. So when one goes off in the basement, it sets off the second floor and the first floor, and now anything in the bedrooms. The bedroom law came out when somebody was a smoker, had fallen asleep in their bed with the door shut, and they basically died in their bedroom with the family down on the first floor in the living room because they didn't know the room was on fire until the door failed and the smoke detector in the hallway burned. So now smoke detectors have to be in all the bedrooms. Another thing that's been added more recently is carbon monoxide detectors. And the requirement now is to have a carbon monoxide detector on all floors for the same reason as a smoke detector.
You can get those in one device, correct?
You can get a combination unit which would have
and carbon monoxide together.
And what we recommend is you have a combination one in the basement, on the first floor, on the second floor, and just a smoke detector in the bathroom, in the bedrooms.
Not in the bathroom.
Not in the bathrooms.
Not in the bathroom. So to summarize here, if we can, we'll just wrap a few things up. Our job at Merrimack Fire Rescue is to protect life and property for everyone in town. And one of the things that helps us do that job is working smoke detectors properly installed in every home. As we've just discussed, there have been a couple instances recently where the outcome was tragic because of the absence of smoke detectors. So smoke detectors are a huge benefit to us in protecting the life of people in our town, particularly from fire. We ask everybody out there to have smoke detectors in their home, test them regularly, ensure the batteries are good and that they're working properly. And if you have elderly friends or neighbors or anyone else who might have a little difficulty in reaching their detector safely to test it or changing their batteries or anything like that, please reach out to them and make sure that they have what they need and their detectors are working properly.
We also offer a free home inspection type of a fire safety survey. We will come out to your house, we will look at your house, we will check your smoke detectors and look at other safety related things. It's completely free to anybody who lives in town, whether you own or rent your property. There's no sort of punishment if we find anything wrong. It's just an informative inspection for us to maybe point out things that you're not aware of. Something we see that we know is a problem, other people may not know is a problem. We see a lot of things that in our experience will warn us of something that an average person just may not think of as a problem. And that's, again, completely free, and no punishment or any other punitive measures will be done. It's simply to help anyone who needs us to take a look.
How can somebody get one of those home safety reviews, John?
You can simply contact the Fire Marshal's office at the Merrimack Fire Department at our main number of 603-424-3690 at any time.
Perfect. I think that about wraps it up. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I don't believe so.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for joining us today for Fireside. I hope that the information we presented was helpful. And again, as John said, if anybody has any questions or is looking for some more information or assistance with